The story of modern investment is not just about money. It's about power, influence, and the silent threads that tie nations together. Among these threads, few are as intricate as the financial bond between the United Kingdom and the Muslim world, particularly the powerful economies of the Middle East. Over the past decade, the landscape of global finance has shifted dramatically. And in this transformation, Middle Eastern investment has become one of the most defining forces shaping Britain's economy. The partnership has not come out of nowhere. It was born out of shared ambitions, of innovation, of diversification, of influence that reaches far beyond borders. When oil-rich nations began to seek new ways of ensuring sustainable futures, their eyes turned westward, to London, Manchester, and other British cities that stood as symbols of global commerce and stability. The United Kingdom, in turn, opened its doors. Post-Brexit, it needed new partners, new flows of capital, and new alliances that could replace the gravitational pull once exerted by the European Union. From Doha to Riyadh to Abu Dhabi, sovereign wealth funds and private firms began planting deep roots in Britain's economy. Each investment carried with it not only financial strategy, but also geopolitical intent. Qatar, through its sovereign wealth fund, the Qatar Investment Authority, became one of the largest investors in Britain. It bought symbols of prestige, Harrods, the Shard, and even significant shares in the London Stock Exchange. Each acquisition was more than a financial transaction. It was a statement, a sign that Qatar had arrived as a global power, capable of influencing one of the world's oldest financial centres. In London, the gleaming tower of the Shard became a physical manifestation of this partnership, a modern monument to both architectural ambition and cross-continental trust. Through such investments, Qatar secured not just profits, but a lasting presence in Britain's urban and economic identity. Abu Dhabi followed a similar path. The Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, one of the largest sovereign wealth funds on earth, has poured billions into British infrastructure, real estate, and technology. For the UAE, Britain represents more than a market. It is a laboratory for diversification, a place to refine strategies that will help its economy move beyond oil. From office blocks in London to renewable energy projects across the UK countryside, Abu Dhabi's money has flowed into ventures designed for long-term growth and sustainability. In artificial intelligence, fintech, and cybersecurity, Emirati capital is helping to drive the UK's own innovation ecosystem, linking two worlds that once stood apart in economic vision. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, guided by its Vision 2030 plan, has directed its public investment fund toward global diversification. And Britain has become one of its favourite destinations. The Saudi fund has invested in energy, technology, and infrastructure projects across the UK, mirroring the kingdom's ambition to transform itself into a knowledge-driven powerhouse. A $6.8 billion memorandum with UK Export Finance deepened this relationship, weaving a web of shared opportunity between London and Riyadh. Each project under this partnership is not just a transaction, but a negotiation of trust, one that defines how nations collaborate in a world that is increasingly multipolar. Across these nations, Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia, a pattern emerges: investment not for short-term profit, but for long-term power. Real estate, technology, and infrastructure form the triad of sectors that anchor this movement. In real estate, Middle Eastern investors have reshaped London's skyline, restoring old neighbourhoods and redefining luxury living. Many of these developments also align with environmental and social governance standards, showing a new awareness that wealth must coexist with responsibility. In technology, the focus has shifted toward fintech and artificial intelligence, areas where the UK excels and the Gulf nations seek expertise. And in infrastructure, their money builds railways, airports, and energy networks that strengthen Britain's physical and digital backbone. But behind the glitter of glass towers and innovation hubs lies a deeper political story. Brexit, once viewed as a rupture, has paradoxically opened new doors. By leaving the European Union, Britain was forced to look outward, to the Gulf, to Asia, to the wider world. Negotiations for a UK Gulf Cooperation Council free trade agreement have symbolised this shift. Influential business leaders, Barrister Irfan Malik, CEO of Easy E-Money and DM New English, called on Middle Eastern investors to strengthen their partnership with the UK. The result is a new kind of economic diplomacy, one not built on proximity, but on mutual interest. Yet every opportunity carries a challenge. Immigration policy, for instance, has become a double-edged sword. The UK's new approach seeks to attract skilled workers while tightening other entry routes. But this has caused unease among Muslim investors who also wish to live, work, and grow families in Britain. When immigration feels restrictive, even the flow of money can slow. Investment is not only about business, it is about belonging. A nation that appears closed to its partners risks losing more than just capital. It risks trust. Cultural perception plays its role too. Media portrayals, stereotypes, and social tensions can quietly influence economic decisions. When Muslim communities are misrepresented or alienated, when Islam is misunderstood, it reverberates in boardrooms as much as in neighborhoods. For Middle Eastern investors, the social climate of a country is part of the equation. They seek not just profit but partnership, one that respects faith, heritage, and dignity. And for Britain, learning to honor that sensitivity is part of securing its economic future. Beyond cultural and political challenges lie the tremors of geopolitics. The Middle East remains a region of both promise and volatility. Conflicts in Syria, Yemen, and Libya, or shifts in alliances, can influence how and where investments move. For the UK, navigating this terrain requires diplomacy as much as economic skill. Its involvement in global politics, military aid, and regional strategy all affect how Muslim countries perceive its reliability as a partner. Still, the balance between risk and reward continues to draw these nations together. Each pound invested is a message of confidence in Britain's institutions, in its markets, and in its potential to adapt. And for the investors, it's a pathway toward diversification and global stature. The real challenge, however, lies in maintaining equilibrium. To ensure that trade remains fair, that culture remains respected, and that policy remains open. As we look to the future, one thing becomes clear. This partnership is no longer optional. The economies of the UK and the Muslim world are intertwined by necessity, by strategy, and by history. For the UK, these investments provide stability and growth during uncertain times. For the Middle East, they provide access, influence, and a bridge to the West. Together, they embody the story of modern globalization, one not driven solely by profit, but by vision. If Britain can maintain a spirit of openness, balancing security with inclusion, nationalism with cooperation, it will remain an attractive hub for Muslim and Middle Eastern investors. If not, the tides of capital may shift elsewhere, to Europe, Asia, or emerging Pakistani markets. In the end, investment is more than economics. It is diplomacy without words, the quiet handshake between cultures, sealed not in treaties, but in trust. From the glittering towers of London to the deserts of Doha, from Riyadh's innovation hubs to Abu Dhabi's financial districts, this story of shared ambition continues to unfold. It is a narrative of transformation, of how the East and the West, divided by geography and faith, are united by the simple, universal pursuit of progress. A pursuit that defines not only the future of economies, but the future of cooperation between civilizations. In recent years, political voices within the UK, such as Nigel Farage and Humza Yousaf, have stirred debates that risk unsettling long-standing relationships with investors from the Muslim world. Farage's rhetoric on immigration and nationalism has often been viewed as dismissive of the cultural and economic ties that connect Britain to Muslim-majority nations. Meanwhile, Yousaf's own political controversies and internal disputes within the UK's governance have amplified perceptions of instability and division. Together, their contrasting yet polarizing narratives have created uncertainty, casting shadows over the trust and diplomatic goodwill that underpin billions of pounds in investment from the Gulf and beyond. For investors seeking confidence and continuity, such political turbulence raises questions. Whether the UK remains the reliable, open, and globally minded partner it once was.